I really do think now that we understand where we've come from and we're beginning to understand structural and systemic racism, that we have to ask ourselves whether any of our institutions are up to the task of being part of building a fully inclusive society, an equitable society, one in which all can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. Sadly, most times when you ask that question and you look at our institutions, you're going to find that the answer is no. Because most of the institutions that we have were not built on the expectation that all would reach their full potential. When you think about our educational system that has operated leaving so many people behind, never even putting forward enough resources to dream that you could educate all children at high levels. When you think about that system of education that exists all across this country, I am always shocked by the fact that I can go to any city in America, and if you have over a certain percentage of Black and brown children in the school system, you will find that those children are not being served well consistently. So do you reform a system like that? That when you think about our welfare system, part of it, go back to when it was separating Native American children from their families, with the notion that you had to wipe out their culture if you had any thought that they could be included into the broader culture. When you think about how the welfare system has treated Black families, when you think about the way, just look at what's happening with immigrants at the border and children and people doing that in the name of social welfare. The social welfare system, while in its best, may have been trying to build a decent, compassionate safety net. The notion that you'll have a whole system that's building a safety net, that shows you have no expectations for the people, that you just gather people in a safety net. What about steps and platforms and ladders and trampolines that get people climbing up, reaching their full potential and jumping back up if they happen to fall off? That's the kind of system I would have in mind for the people who I know have genius to be able to bring to everything that we need. Do I even need to talk about the police? The police in this country were developed in the South to catch runaway slaves. The police in the Northeast were developed to squash labor during the Industrial Revolution. The police in the Southwest, okay, it was the Texas Rangers. We know what they were about. For systems that began to be part of contain and control, for us to have an expectations that they will keep the very communities safe, that they were designed to contain and control, is naive. That when we think about what we've done in terms of housing, that our attempts to be able to make sure that people had housing allowed for the building of public housing where we concentrated people who were Black and brown all in the same place, underinvesting in that housing. Or we developed a system of being able to people to use tax credits, to get tax credits for contributing to low-income housing that could only be built in neighborhoods that had already a concentration of poverty. We were not really thinking about how to provide housing that was connected to opportunity, how to make sure that housing was connected to jobs. And so I would contend that we can't build our way to the housing that we need to connect people to opportunity. We're going to have to rethink housing. It's going to have to become a human right. We're going to have to think about it in very different ways in terms of what does it mean for housing to be a human right in terms of rental or access to ownership. That we're not going to imprison our way to safety. Our criminal justice system, which I now call the criminal legal system because I think it is a misnomer to even have justice in the name of it, that the policing system, they were not designed to be able to keep communities safe. Safety happens because of trust, because of opportunity, because of connectedness, because of economic security, and policing and the locking people up has nothing to do with that. When you think about health, and we really do need a system that provides universal health care to everyone, access to health care only accounts for 10 to 20% of health being healthy. The other 80% has to do with where you live, how you live, the access to fresh fruits and vegetables, access to safe places to exercise, living in a community without the stress of racial oppression. That where you live is a proxy for opportunity. And so when you think about our systems in that way, reform isn't going to get us there. We need to bring our radical imagination that asks, what do we want? What do we want? And then move toward that North Star, being willing to throw off things that we have just become accustomed to if they don't help to get through that North Star. And when you think about the changing demographics, California has been majority people of color for over 20 years, but the nation is moving there rapidly. By 2044, the majority of all people in the United States will be of color, but much sooner, 2030, the majority of the young workforce will be of color. Since 2012, the majority of all babies born in this country have been of color. Right now, the majority of the young elementary school children throughout the country are of color. The future of the nation is going to quickly become dependent on the very people who've been left behind. And when you think about the things that really make a nation competitive, being young, being entrepreneurial, being global, the diversity is a gift to this nation. What could be a bigger gift in a global economy than to be connected to the globe through kinship, through custom, through language, through friendship? What is more important than an entrepreneurial spirit in a nation where people of color are 3 times as likely to open and start a small business as people who are white? What really drives democracy and community is people who are building family, having babies, buying homes, starting businesses. And we have that. The median age for people who are white is 42. The median age for people who are Latinx is 27, 28. And that is the fastest growing group in the nation. And so when I think about what it's going to take, we really have to know that it's not going to be business as usual. We have to have a real vision of inclusion, bring our radical imagination to what it's going to have to look like to get there, and then use all of our energy and our advocacy and our creativity to create it, and to create it fast.